Hey, so there's a funny story about that actually. The truck of bunk heaters frequently don't work very well.
Hmm.
There's an old Australian term, which is if it's real cold, it's a three dog night. So it's not just a band from the 1970s, but she was thinking ahead. She brought five dogs, so that way the person filming it, they have a two dog night, she has a three dog night. So it all works out if you think
Is
about it.
genius. That's very smart. I don't think I could do it just because I can barely take care of myself, and so five dogs would definitely be stretching it. I'm also a little bit concerned about that hot dog popsicle.
The hot sickle. I mean, it's a great idea. Some intern pulled it out of the freezer because they ship them flash frozen, and they're like, you know what? Let's just put a stick in it and we'll call it a day.
Or maybe they just leave the bones in. That's what they do with hot dogs, right?
Bone in.
Maybe that's what happens.
Some
Anyway,
5-year-old's gonna think a hot dog has bones. Like, you gotta debone the hot dog.
speaking of 5-year-olds, one of my favorite things were Legos growing up, and we have Alan Adler here to talk about what Legos have to do with this week's edition of Truck Tech. Alan, thanks for joining us this morning.
Morning, guys. You know what? I have so much to say about what you just talked about, but there's just not time, right? I mean, didn't the corn dog come before the hot dog on a stick? I mean, the corn dog kind of had that idea first. All right, enough of that. Bricks, Lego bricks. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Spent just a couple of days in Indiana this week at the ACT Research Seminar number 67. They number these because there's so many of them. They do 2 of them a year. It's a great gathering, really, of the industry. This one was attractive to me because its focus was Watts, WATTS, under the hood, that is electrical and autonomous. So lots of speakers, people that we know and some that we don't know as well who were there. But the one thing that leads the newsletter today, which I just thought was a great way to explain the supply chain issues, was from Paul Rosa at Penske. He works in the supply area and handles fleet activities. She comes up on stage and he basically is set up a few people in the audience with boxes of Lego, and then he puts up a slide and he says, okay, so here's all the things we need to basically make and deliver a truck. And he has different people open their boxes and explain what they have in them and what's missing from his list. And so through this, he manages to come up with a very creative way to explain all of the issues that go into the supply chain disruptions, and did a terrific job. So he gets the lead spot in the newsletter. We also, after pretty big news yesterday, I think from Hyliion on the acquisition of the General Electric technology for generator technology, they saved that. They didn't announce that at the seminar, but Thomas Healy was there. And one of the things he did, besides sort of give his I don't know if it's a stump speech. I think I've heard most of it before because we talk pretty regularly. But Hyliion did something really smart from a marketing perspective. Didn't even have to pay for it. They sent one of their Hypertruck ERX demonstration units up to Indiana and basically gave rides during dinner one night. Got about 70 people in the truck. And these are exactly the kind of people that they need to be in these trucks, right? To get exposure to them. And so I was talking to Thomas yesterday. And the other thing I said, so how much do you pay to do that? He said, I don't know. I'll get back to you. Because he said, we didn't pay him anything. I said, well, other than getting the truck up there from Texas and, paying for the natural gas to make the electricity, that's a pretty good deal. That's a brilliance in marketing, I think.
Well, I think it's really fascinating. I like the outside of the box thinking and marketing. It reminds me of P.T. Barnum, who would purposely troll people and have like certain people walk around the city and make a line, and then it would go through his museum or whatever he was trying to show. Do you think, especially given the competition from electric, is this something that having this natural gas and showcasing it could be a really good stepping stone, since there is a lot of competition in the space?
Well, of course, Thomas, the Hypertruck is an electric truck, but it is a hybrid in the sense that it's two-mode. It uses a generator to essentially extend the range of the truck. So right now it's natural gas. What they announced yesterday was a new technology. I think it's fascinating, which will take up to 20 different fuels, including mixing those fuels to make electricity. And that's something that GE had been kind of working on, not in a skunk works kind of way, but it's something where they came to to Hyliion with that idea, and Hyliion said, "Yeah, this works really good. You want to sell it to us?" And of course, that's a whole nother thing which we'll get into in a roundtable, I think, on Monday on FreightWaves Now. But it's really interesting to me that this technology, this hybrid technology, which clearly is a transition to full electric vehicle, is something that is getting a lot of attention now. They've got 200 or so orders for the truck, plus another 2,000 reservations, which are not binding. So there's something going on there, and this idea of having getting all of the benefits of 1,000 miles of range while still being able to operate as an electric truck is pretty intriguing. I think the thing we've got to find out about is how expensive is this thing going to be, because it really is a lot of not necessarily moving parts, but a lot of parts that do arguably drive the cost of acquisition up pretty high. Even if you get great results from it, our fleet manager's going to come on board with this in a meaningful way to create real scale for it.
And Alan, one of the other things that gets mentioned, I think, in this morning's Truck Tech is passenger vehicles. What's been going on with passenger vehicles that you've been highlighting that can really tell us about what's going on in the truck market?
Yeah, I think, all the trends, Anthony, that we're seeing, inflation being one of your favorites. It's time to retire that commercial, by the way. It's a great commercial. It was great months ago. I'm not sure if it's so great now. Anyway, the inflation, of course, is one of the drivers. We're seeing now an average transaction price almost $46,000 on a new car. Okay. So when truck drivers aren't driving their trucks and they're driving, their pickups or whatever for daily driving use, they're seeing incredible inflation, as we all are, on new cars. Used cars now are $30,000 transaction price, which is just amazing. And there's practically nothing left. You cannot really find a new car, according to the National Automobile Dealers Association, for less than $20,000 anymore. So it doesn't exist. And, so a lot of the supply chain things that have seen, whether depending where you live, if, around here, we see a lot of pickup trucks and other things that are parked, red tagged, waiting for parts, things like that. So all of those issues that have visited on the truck industry are happening to the car industry as well. I thought it was interesting that NADA was there because, again, this is a truck audience, but I think that some of the information shared was pretty interesting and indicative of what's happening across all of the transportation space.
And thinking about it, the demise of the sub $20,000 car, it's either a $21,000 car or a Bird scooter, the little electric scooters that go 30 miles an hour.
Exactly, or a recumbent bike. Actually, the bike has obviously become, pretty popular. But even, during the pandemic, you couldn't get a bike if you wanted one. They weren't around. I think they're back again. A lot of things are back in stock, so to speak. But we saw, of course, the Peloton Amazon thing this week. Amazon picked up all their inventory that Peloton couldn't sell. So, I think this whole thing is interesting, and I think a lot of what we heard down in Indiana is just we're starting very slowly to come out of some of these issues. But the inflation thing could take another spin. We also had a piece the other day, Anthony, I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw it, about sort of what happens if we get a black swan for a recession, where if something happened that could just create a severe recession rather than this prediction of a mild recession. And, Jim Meal, who spent, about 30 years at Eaton Corporation as their chief economist, he's a funny guy, by the way, really great, dry sense of humor. But he laid out a scenario that, quite honestly, you cannot discount, and he puts it at about 20% in terms of the possibility. So I'm not sure anybody else is. I know we're all kind of watching what happens in Wyoming today at the Jackson Hole Conference with the Fed and that sort of thing. But you know what? I mean, we hope we don't see this, but he laid out a plausible scenario for it. He does say it's guesswork, but that's what economists do anyway, isn't it, Anthony?
Except all my guesses are right.
I love having the economist on here because we can have so much fun. By the way, guys, we have cultural reference for older folks, in the newsletter today. One movie reference, 2 song titles. Good luck finding them. The one's really easy. It's in a subhead. But and I keep thinking that if I had more time to write this newsletter, I could come up with more inane things to put in there. So.
Alan, this is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Always entertaining and always very insightful. Excited for this edition to come out to the public as well this morning. And we'll be sure to check in with you again next week on that roundtable on Monday.
All right, thanks. Take care, guys.
Right now, we're going to take a short break, but stick with us. We'll be right back with more Freightwaves.